From 1986 through the first half of 1987, Christy Phillips was America's gymnastics sweetheart. Twice a national champion, Christy had the same smile, talent, style, and even the same coach, Bela Karolyi, that made comparisons to Mary Lou Retton inevitable. But between her coronation as the new Mary Lou
and these Olympic trials, something changed, mainly her body. Christy Phillips grew up, added almost 4 inches and 20 pounds. The moves that took her to the top no longer came so easy. The first sign was when she took second place in the all-around competition at last summer's Pan American Games. Then in October's World Championships, her compulsory performance was so dismal, she failed to make the top 36 of the all-around. The star was flaring out.
I was kind of getting down on myself. I wasn't really going into the gym and working as hard as I could every day because I just kind of felt, kind of slacking off. I wasn't giving it all I got. And so I needed to change my motivational habits.
That change took place January. She left Karolyi's gym to train in Southern California with U.S. Olympic coach Don Peters. Christy had been used to 40-hour, 6-day weeks with the keen competition of Karolyi's gym in Houston. Peters' schedule was about half that. Christy put on weight, suffered a string of nagging injuries, lost her competitive edge.
All the way. I got to change my motivation, but then I started losing hours, in the gym. There we went 5 to 6 hours a day, 4 days a week. And it was a major difference, and I could really feel it catching up with me. And so I really needed to come back and start working all those hours again so I could be better.
In May, just 2 months before the trials, Christy returned to Houston to train with Bela Karolyi. Don Peters, the coach of the Olympic team, would not comment on the change. But Bela Karolyi offers his observation.
All the way handstand.
When she came back, that was shocking. Shocking to me. Overweight, out of shape, dragging herself around the floor. Only one thing was the same, her dedication and desire.
I've been working hard. I've gone through a lot, and I really feel that all my hard work and dedication is going to pay off, and I feel I'm going to be there, and I feel I'm going to make it, and I don't want to think about the other side.
She lost all the weight on a diet of tuna, boiled eggs, and water. That most definitely is food for thought if you're thinking that your daughter should be doing something like this. We'll be back. Women's gymnastics Olympic trials. Here are the standings. Remember, as you look at them, that the top 6 will represent the United States in Seoul in September. It is really a battle between 8 women of the 18 who are competing for those 6 spots. Melissa Marlowe trying to hold off Rhonda Fain and Christy Phillips, 2 more members of the Karolyi gymnastics group from Houston. Now, Don Peters, who will be the Olympic coach, has suffered many a disappointment in battling Bela Karolyi for the coaching position, and we'll talk more about that later. But even more disappointing for him was the loss of 2 of his well-established gymnasts, Sabrina Marr, who dropped out after the compulsories, and then just before the competition today, Do Yamashiro, whose sprained ankle just proved to be too much for her. And right now, Becky Dixon is there to talk to both of them. Becky?
Thank you, Al. Sabrina, you and Do have both experienced a great deal of pain during your careers, but today the real pain has to be in your heart. What are you saying to yourself to try to erase some of that pain?
Mostly that we've got the fond memories to hang on to, our past achievements, Pan American Games, World Championships, and Goodwill Games, and that we just mainly tried our hardest and just didn't pull through.
Do, both of you have been with Coach Don Peters for a number of years. You were his top 2 gymnasts coming into this competition. Now you're both out of it, and you won't accompany him to Seoul with the Olympic team. In any way, do you feel like you've let him down?
I can't say we've let him down. We gave it our best shot. We were a little disappointed with our bodies. They didn't hold up, but we gave it our best, and he knows we did. He believes in us.
A big disappointment that you won't be going to Seoul, but both of you have some pretty big plans for the fall. Sabrina, you'll be going to UCLA and Do Stanford, and we want to wish both of you the best of luck in the future. Thank you. Al?
All right, Becky, and only yards from them sits Dan Hayden with a cast on his arm. He's not going to Seoul either. Let's go up to Frank Gifford.
Thank you very much, Al. And staying on top of things as we approach Seoul, as many of you know by now, diver Bruce Kimball, the silver medalist of the 1984 Olympics in Los Angeles, was arrested earlier in the week on charges of vehicular homicide. Kimball allegedly drove his car into a group of teenagers in Brandon, Florida, killing 2 and injuring 6 others. Law enforcement officials are still investigating and have not filed formal charges against Kimball. Results of a blood alcohol test to determine whether Kimball was legally drunk have not been released. Kimball's father, who coaches Bruce, and his counsel have both recommended that he still take part in the Olympic diving trials in 2 weeks. Well, Tim Daggett is joining me now, and last night we all suffered as we watched him try to make a comeback from that horrible injury of last October, the broken leg, the severed artery, and no one believed, first of all, Tim, you would ever be here last night, but again, we all suffered with every move you made, and when did you know you really could not carry on?
Well, you know, it wasn't good right from the start, Frank. I woke up in the morning and my leg was really sore. It just, it didn't seem to respond the way it had in the past. The more pounding that I put on it, it just wasn't recuperating, and right from the start it was a little scary.
Tim, last night you tearfully said that was the end, the career was over. You've had a night to sleep on that. Any second thoughts?
Well, you know, at this point, I really have to take some time. You know, it was my dream to get to this meet, and, you know, everybody told me that it really probably wasn't possible, but it was something that I had to do. It's something that I said to myself, and I had to try. And last night when we decided that I wasn't going to continue, you know, I had a meeting with my coach and my trainer, my doctor, and we decided at that point we had really won. And it was okay to stop at that point.
When you left the arena last night, it had to be one of the most moving moments in your life, even though one of the saddest, when all of your teammates, all of your associates, all the gymnasts, an unannounced withdrawal to this arena, and they broke into tremendous applause. Everyone's congratulating you, shaking your hand. It must have been a very moving moment for you, Tim.
Yeah, very much so. You know, to get acceptance from your peers like that and your fans, I mean, it's a great feeling. There's so many great individuals out there, and they've dedicated their lives and everything that they have inside of them to being the best they can be, and to you know, to get their thanks and their appreciation. It helped me a lot.
Tim, we would like to see you go to Seoul, perhaps as an honorary captain, maybe working for the competition, whatever. We've enjoyed following your career, Tim.
Thank you very much.
Congratulations. Frank. It was a great effort, and it was a triumph, no matter what happened. Right now, we're going back to Al Joffrey.
Yeah, Frank, last night they were passing around a lot of tissues here at the Salt Palace. For Dan Hayden, he was in third place going into the last event, then suddenly a high bar routine, which he has performed literally hundreds of times, failed him, as he could not overcome the pain of a separated shoulder from the routine before. A sad story in Salt Lake City, but we've got some joy to come. Of Sabrina Marr and Do Yamashiro, and will be the coach of the U.S. Olympic team in Seoul in September. The embattled coach of this team, Don Peters, and we'll have more on his story later as we prepare for the last two rotations in our live coverage on ABC's Wide World of Sports today. The next apparatus we will focus on is the balance beam. And Kathy Rigby-McCoy gives us a little bit more focus as to what that will mean.
The overall execution on the balance beam should give the impression that the gymnast is performing on a floor 40 feet wide, not a strip of wood 4 inches narrow. The gymnast is required in 70 to 90 seconds to perform a routine that varies in rhythm and has a full range of dance techniques. The gymnast has to cover the entire beam and perform at least one acrobatic series consisting of tumbling with flight. All this makes the balance beam the most precarious and breathtaking of the women's events.
And this will be the stage for the next performer we will watch, Kelly Garrison Steeves, who right now, after 2 rotations, is in second place. Maybe the most unique story here. Kelly's 21 years old, a senior at Oklahoma, where she lives with her husband, Mark, who is also a gymnast there. She began in gymnastics in 1974, a year after Shelley Stack and Brandy Johnson were born.
Very risky opening, round off, back tuck onto the beam, and she did it so securely. Kelly's routine has evolved since 1979. However, it's totally different today. But you take it piece by piece and you improve it a little at a time.
Meanwhile, Brandy Johnson has begun her performance on the floor exercise. We'll check in with that complete routine a little bit later as we continue our live coverage with Kelly Garrison Steeves.
That's a very unusual movement named after Kelly. It's a Valdez, almost in a horizontal position. There's her required full turn. Very difficult move to do, especially under this kind of pressure. Kelly doesn't seem to be holding back.
Kathy, she works out with the Oklahoma weight coach and is the only woman allowed to use the weight room when the football team is in there. I don't know how she got permission from Barry Switzer to do that, but she did. Is that something you would recommend for a gymnast, weight training?
Well, I never had the opportunity to work with weights, but it's made a big improvement in Kelly's gymnastics, her endurance, and her strength. But she's also used it to make her body look a little bit more like the younger gymnast. That is what her coach, Becky Buick, was telling me. Here's her dismount, round off, double tuck. Very good routine. There's Becky.